Wu-bin dragged the girl into his office, immediately releasing her from his grip, frustration simmering beneath his calm exterior. He demanded to know what was wrong with her, reminding her sharply that he had promised to have dinner with her and that there had been no need for such a public spectacle. The girl stood there, her expression cold yet on the verge of breaking, eyes glistening as tears threatened to spill. She told him, her voice trembling, that he had used her, that the only reason he needed the will was to get her father arrested. Now her father was sitting in jail because of her, because he had made her do it. Wu-bin stood still, watching her, the weight of her words pressing into him like a stone. Guilt flickered in his chest. He had known all along what he was doing when he pulled her into his scheme, but at the time, he had convinced himself he had no other choice. Her desperation to be close to him had been an advantage too convenient to ignore. He stepped closer, trying to justify it to himself as much as to her. He reminded her that her father had been a criminal, that he had broken the law, and his actions had cost someone their life. It had been the only way. Someone's life had been at stake if he hadn't acted. But the girl just stood there, staring straight at him, silent tears now streaming freely down her cheeks. He could see it clearly. He had broken something inside her, shattered the trust and the naive hope she had clung to when she first believed in him. Her voice shook as she reminded him that the man he had put behind bars was her father, her only family, and now he was gone. She demanded to know how she was supposed to live without him, her grief twisting into rage. Her voice rose, echoing off the office walls as she blamed him for everything, vowing that she would make sure the entire world knew what he and his family's organization had done. If it meant protesting in the streets, appearing on TV and radio to drag his name through the mud, she would do it. Nothing and no one would stop her. She turned to leave, but Wu-bin grabbed her wrist, stopping her mid-step. He called her dramatic, insisting she was being unfair. Her father had been guilty, and what he did had been right, even if the way he went about it had not been. He tried to calm her down, asking her outright what she wanted from him, offering, almost mockingly, to take her out on that dinner date if that was what she needed to settle down. She looked at him with eyes like ice and told him a dinner date would never bring her father back. Wu-bin, now feeling the weight of the situation close in on him, demanded to know what she really wanted, because her tantrums wouldn't change anything. Without flinching, she told him exactly what she wanted. A public statement of apology, an admission that he and his organization had used her to bring down her father. Wu-bin let out a short, bitter laugh. He told her flatly that he would never do that. What he did had been personal, not connected to his family's organization, and he would never drag them down with him. He said he might record an apology video for her and post it if that would shut her up, but he would never involve the organization's name. She held his gaze unwaveringly, her voice eerily calm as she told him that it was either that or she would never stop. Wu-bin found the entire demand absurd, his frustration boiling over. He stepped closer, daring her to name something else, anything at all, because what she was asking for was impossible. She didn't flinch. With a cold, steady stare, she told him to marry her instead. If he married her, she would keep quiet, no scandals, no protests, no threats. Wu-bin couldn't help but bark out a laugh at the absurdity of it. Marry her? A woman he barely knew? The idea was ridiculous, out of line, impossible. But she didn't laugh with him. She simply repeated her ultimatum. Marry her, admit it publicly, or watch her destroy everything he had built. Without another word, she turned and walked out, leaving him standing in the middle of his office, stunned and speechless. He watched the door swing shut behind her, trying to make sense of what had just happened. A bitter thought settled in the pit of his stomach. She was utterly out of her mind. Meanwhile, the girl sat in her car, her hands trembling as she pulled out her small, battered diary. She flipped to a page where she had once written a single line. Get close to Wu-bin. With deliberate finality, she crossed it out. Closing the diary, she glanced at herself in the rearview mirror, her reflection pale, but her eyes sharp with determination. Softly, to herself, she murmured that she would find her, no matter what it took, and that she hoped her suspicions were right. With that, she started the engine and drove off into the night, leaving behind the man who had underestimated her entirely.